All right, so welcome back to try number 2 to record this episode. Hopefully you guys enjoy the recap of Daniel chapters 1 through 6. I know we had a good time talking about it, but now we're going to jump into Daniel chapter 7, to the craziness that is this dream and prophecy.
It can get a little crazy here when you start talking about beasts with 4 horns and crazy stuff. But I want to preface it off of this. We were talking about this earlier. Is we need to make sure that we don't get so stuck on trying to figure out the end times. And don't get me wrong, it's a good thing to study. Obviously, it's here for a reason. It's here for a purpose. But we don't want to get so stuck in trying to figure out the end times that we lose the value in what's here. And I think that's, especially in the Christian world, like we get so stuck in Revelation trying to figure out, figure out the timing of it. Yeah. Well, Jesus is coming back on this day. Well, we were talking about earlier is if the Bible tells us that Jesus doesn't even know when he's coming back until the Father tells him to. Right. So if he doesn't know, then why would God reveal it to us? Yeah. So let's not get so stuck and get so distracted on the end times part of it. I like to look at especially Daniel as a way to really, you can prove the Bible's authenticity by these next few chapters, because there's no way that Daniel could have known the things that he's gonna reveal without it coming from God. He couldn't see that far into the future. So
and to touch on the fact of let's not try to figure out the exact end day. Imagine if Noah spent more time figuring out how he could stop the flood versus building the ark. Right. It'd been a lost cause.
So and that's I think that the reason that God gives us this is so that we number one, like I said, it proves the Bible's authenticity, because people now will read Daniel. People that aren't Christians will read Daniel, and they'll try to say one of two things: either Daniel didn't write this, and they both kind of equal up to the same thing, but either Daniel didn't write this, or somebody wrote it for Daniel after all of this happened, which is absolutely positively ridiculous. But let's not get so distracted and caught up in trying to figure out the end times, and just look and see let's just look at and see how Daniel was able to reveal to us now, looking back, right? Reveal to us some of the things that we know happened because it was there, but then there's also some that are in the future beyond us that we can't see. But we know if this was true and it came to pass, then the next part is true also, because it's going to come to pass. If one part is true, then the next part is going to be true as well. So that's just kind of my little, whatever you want to call it, disclaimer, caveat. Let's just not get so caught up in trying to figure out the end times dates. When we get to chapter 8, we'll talk about a story that somebody tried to do that and it did not end well. So, but this is chapter 7. Where it says this is the in the first year of King Belshazzar of Babylon, Daniel had a dream. So we're past we're at another king now, Belshazzar, and it's Daniel has a dream as he falls asleep. He has a dream, and there's some very odd animals that show up in this dream, and you can get caught in the weeds of all this stuff too. That's what I want to try to make sure we don't do, is get caught up in the weeds. So, you see that where he is there in verse 2, it says, Daniel said in my vision at night as I was watching, and suddenly the 4 winds of heaven stirred up the great sea. So we need to know what the great sea is. I guess that's the first thing we need to lay out there, right? The great sea for Daniel obviously wouldn't be the Pacific Ocean or the Atlantic Ocean. He'd never been there. So the great sea that Daniel is talking about is the Mediterranean Sea. That's their big sea. So he's standing there And then these four, it says, these four huge beasts come up from the sea, each different from the other. So this is where we get into the craziness of trying to figure all this out. But and you guys just jump in whenever you want to.
You're doing good.
Yeah. They're giving me here.
My man Daniel did not sign up for any of this.
No.
Straight out the
But he
gate
did.
from
I
him.
mean, he did. You know,
Yeah.
He did in a way because he stayed. He stayed faithful to God through it all. So God reveals this all to him.
Yeah, he was willing to serve, so God used him. But-
Yeah.
Same thing that we talked about the last.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It was just a matter of the fact that, because he was willing, God said, all right.
Here it is.
Here's every single bizarre thing I could show
Yeah.
you in a matter of, 80 years?
Yeah, and it says, in my going back to verse 2, it says, in my vision at night, I was watching, and suddenly the four winds of heaven stirred up the great sea. So when you see that phraseology, stirred up the great sea, in Jewish culture, I mean, even if you've ever been on the ocean, in the middle of when all of a sudden these winds pick up, it becomes chaos.
Very quickly.
And that's what Daniel, I think, is trying to convey, just the chaos of the situation that he's being shown. But you get the first one. It says, was like a lion, but had eagle's wings. That's kind of a scary thought, that a lion
Starts soaring at you.
is already, yeah, I mean, it's got eagle's wings, so it's already, one of the apex predators of the land, and now it's got wings.
Travel through the air instead of just on land.
Yeah, so you think you can hide in a tree from it, and it just flies up and lands on the tree, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that first one, but then it says, I continued watching until its wings were torn off. It was lifted up from the ground, set on its feet like a man, and given a human mind. So as we go through these, you're going to see there's four beasts that are described, almost said descripted, that are described. And this first one is the lion, and it'll describe four kingdoms. Each animal, I don't even know if you can call these animals. Daniel
Creatures?
calls them beasts. So
No, so they're beasts.
Yeah, beast.
yeah, I mean, each of these four beasts will represent four different kingdoms, and obviously, especially the last two, there's no way Daniel would have known anything about them. Maybe the Medo-Persian, which is the next one, which is it says suddenly another beast appeared, a second one that looked like a bear. It was raised up on one side with three ribs in its mouth, between its teeth. It was told, "Get up, gorge yourself on flesh." That's the Medo-Persian. Now, obviously, Daniel would have known about the Medo-Persians because they were around,
Yeah.
during this time. But so that first one, the lion, represented Babylon, which was basically the current world power at the time. And then what God is showing him is the sequence
Of events.
of kingdoms that are coming.
Yeah. It's funny, we were, right before we started filming this, we were talking about just kind of going over chapter 7 and everything that's in it. And I couldn't remember how quickly it started, going into the interpretation of, what each of these things were. But it's really cool, just the symbols that God uses to describe all these different things. One thing I told Karl was that we know from history and archaeology that the ancient symbol for Babylon was a lion with wings.
Absolutely.
And it's really cool. So there is immediate connection right off the bat. Everyone who's reading this, who would have been familiar with ancient Babylon when it wasn't ancient, be like, oh yeah, that's definitely Babylon. I think how they found that out too was they came across, when they were excavating and going through all this stuff, they found a statue of a lion, and they found things on its back, but it had already broken. And they looked around and they found the wings were broken off of it. But it's cool how it says that he was, I don't want to misinterpret it or misread it. Can you watch in? Wings are torn off. It was lifted up from the ground, set on its feet like a man, and given a human mind. So it even harkens back to just Nebuchadnezzar. After the time where he was made like a beast, and when he turned to God, what happened? He was raised back up to his feet,
Right.
giving back a human mind. So it's cool the comparison how God is using, like, this is very evidently Babylon.
Yes, yes.
And the Medo-Persians for the second one, a bear, especially back then, was only second to a lion, and I like how it does it. Medes and the Persians, the bear is told to go and consume flesh and just like to ravage it, like overwhelm it. The Medes and the Persians did that by numbers.
Yeah.
They were overwhelming by numbers.
Yeah, well, and I didn't realize this till somebody pointed it out to me too. If you read that, it says, suddenly another beast appeared, a second one that looked like a bear. It was raised up on one side, which means that one side was higher than the other. So if you know anything about the meat, look, we're getting into history nerd stuff now. But if you know anything about the Medes and the Persian, that empire, the Persians were a little higher, right? There was more of them. They were a little more powerful than the Medes were, and they lorded that over them too.
Yeah.
So you'll see it says
it wasn't in perfect balance.
Right. It wasn't in balance. Yeah. It wasn't in balance for sure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just the way that Daniel's describing it. Now, I don't know. Maybe Daniel would have known. Obviously, he didn't know much because as we jump in later, you'll see that he has to send an angel to interpret it for him. So he's not getting the whole picture here. In the beginning. But so you have the first one, which is the lion with the wings. That represents the Babylonian Empire, and then you have the second one, which is the bear, which represents the Medo-Persian Empire, and then you have this third one that shows up. It says, after this, while I was watching, suddenly another beast appeared. It was like a leopard with 4 wings of a bird on its back. It had 4 heads and was given dominion. So, and this all makes sense now because we can see back behind us. Right. So it kind of shows up now. That was the Greek Empire. And some people say the Greek. Yep, that was Alexander the Great. If you know anything about history and Alexander the Great, it's interesting that the leopard represents that because a leopard is pretty much in most cultures where leopards are present. They're real swift. Yeah. They're fast. They're very surprising. But then you add not just 2 wings that were on the lion, but 4 wings. Takes an apex swift predator and makes it even faster. Yeah. And that's the way Alexander the Great took over in the Greek Empire. Yeah. Right. That's the way he took it over. It was like sudden, fast. Nobody saw it coming. Right. He was one of the a lot of historical or history scholars will say that Alexander the Great was one of the greatest tacticians, military minds ever. Yeah. Because
he overwhelmed pure size because he just was smart. He was strategic. Methodical. Yeah.
Yep. And quick. I mean, and he did it fast. It wasn't like the 100-year war. I mean, this was in just a few years that he took over the world. And nobody had ever really done it that way before. Yeah. So it's interesting that he used the leopard represents it because it represents exactly what Alexander the Great did perfectly. Yeah. And then on top of that, now you have at the end of verse 6, it says it had 4 heads and was given dominion. So why? I mean, a leopard, I don't know about y'all, but one of the things that scares me the most, especially when you go out like Wyoming and I don't want to get attacked by a mountain lion. Like I have Hondo at the house, who's my cat, that's about the size of a dog, but but that joker is quick and sudden and will come out of nowhere. Yeah. And to have something that big attack you. Yeah. But now on top of that, it only
4 heads.
It has 4 heads.
And also flies.
not a forehead. It has 4 heads. Right. So again, looking back now, Daniel would have no idea what that meant. Yeah. But us looking back can see, because it represents that Greek Empire. Yeah. That when Alexander the Great died, his kingdom was split into 4 and given to his 4 top generals. Yeah. So that's where the 4 heads come from.
Yeah. He didn't have any heirs or anything, so it just split off.
Right. Yeah. He didn't have any heirs or anything like that. Yeah. But
it's cool. Like a little bit ago, you're talking about how everything that Daniel sees is proven, and like it validates Scripture being real and all these different things. a lot of people I've heard recently, there's a weird school of thought where some people think that Daniel was written just way after the fact.
Right. That's what I was saying before. Yeah.
And it can't be right because we know through history Alexander the Great used Daniel almost as like a self-fulfilling prophecy. He read it, saw it, he was like, oh, that's me. And then he went off and did everything that he did. Mm-hmm. That couldn't have happened if it was written way after the fact, right? But it's just cool how, he was able to even recognize himself in this, not even,
not even that, but again, that goes to, we were talking about that earlier too, is if I can come up with an excuse that this isn't real, that means God isn't real.
Right.
That means I can be whatever I want to be because God's not real and none of this really matters.
Right.
All right, so if I can just say in my mind, I can come to the conclusion, well, this had to have been written
after the fact. Whatever.
Right. And
that's why it's cool that we have history to show us that it wasn't.
Yeah, absolutely. And then so that's the first three. We got to Alexander the Great, and then you have this one that shows up. Apparently is worse because Daniel doesn't just describe this. He doesn't even describe it at all. He just calls it a beast because, and it says after a while in verse 7. It says after a while I was watching in the night visions, suddenly a fourth beast appeared, frightening and dreadful. So like this one is like apparently
more terrifying
than a leopard with 4 heads.
This is very powerful.
Or a lion with wings.
Yeah, I mean, so, and it says dreadful and incredibly strong with large iron teeth that devoured and crushed, and it trampled with its feet whatever was left. And this is, I'm going to go on another history nerd thing here real quick too about that. Where it says, now obviously we can take the literal, where it says it was trampled with its feet whatever was left. So obviously that could just simply mean that it just ran roughshod over everything.
Yeah.
All right, and we'll say this too, so that we can get to this point, which is this fourth beast represents the Roman Empire. But the cool thing about that statement, where it says it trampled with its feet whatever was left, if you know anything about the Roman soldiers' armor, the shoes, the sandals that they wore, were almost like cleats, so that as people were, even if they weren't dead, as these thousands of Roman soldiers walked over them, what was left got trampled and killed. Yeah. And they did that purposely. That was the purpose of having those types of sandals. Right. So just that little statement just goes, that one little detail, and that's the thing with me, is God is just so detailed. Yeah. That one little detail that he showed Daniel and that Daniel brought up, really speaks to it.
Yeah, even the part where it talks about how it devoured the previous beasts. But one for two things, it's showing that it would be the next kingdom in the timeline. Right. Because it's very one after the other. But also for Rome specifically, Rome was famous for adopting and adapting things from the previous kingdom into itself. So it literally devours it, takes it in, and then kind of repurposes it. Right. And then and it goes even I don't even know if you read those verses yet. Did you get to the part about the metal teeth?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. I will hold my tongue.
No. You're good. Go for it.
In a verse or two, it talks about how it has iron teeth, and it's really cool. Like looking at the two dreams or visions that's happened in Daniel that have a very one after the other focus, like you have in Daniel 2, like the statue, right? It's very much modeled the exact same way. It's this kingdom and this kingdom and this kingdom. Well, the fourth kingdom in the statue dream was iron, and now you have the fourth beast with iron teeth. Yeah. It's just cool how it kind of harkens back to Daniel chapter 2, which on a broad spect, thing, God took his sweet time explaining this dream to Daniel, because that was 60-something years ago from Daniel 2 to Daniel chapter 7, if we're going with Belshazzar, which is the descendant of Nebuchadnezzar. He's just now getting the full spectrum of what this vision even is so far after the fact.
Yeah, and I heard this. I didn't come up with this. Just want everybody to be clear about that. I heard somebody say, and it's actually a great thought, which is if you go back to Daniel chapter 2, which we'll go back to it real quick, and just, if you remember, he was interpreting Nebuchadnezzar's dream, and Nebuchadnezzar's dream was this statue that, excuse me, that had, I'm trying to find where it's at. Anyway, you have the statue, there it is. The head of the statue was pure gold, the chest and arms were silver, to its stomach, its thighs were bronze, and its legs were iron. Right, and I saw, when I was kind of getting ready for all this, somebody I was listening to or read or something, said that the statue, which is the exact same metallurgy and everything, the statue from chapter 2 is how we as people see these empires, right? When we look at these empires, but when in chapter 7, in the beast part of it, that's how God sees them.
Oh, that's interesting.
I was like, huh.
That's kind of cool, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like we see, when we think of Rome, we think of the architecture and the iron that they build and all these beautiful things that they did. And it is. Like, I mean, the Colosseum's a beautiful place, but
Sure.
but when God looks down and sees the evil of that empire and how they treated people and how and his people especially, this is how he sees them. So what we see is not what God sees.
Got you. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I thought you were going to go down the trail of, like, each one is less than the previous, I guess. Like gold being top, then silver, then
Like
it's
by
copper,
price.
then iron. Right.
Yeah.
And then even, like, going in the animals, like, the lion was, like, the king, and then after is the bear, then after is the leopard, and then after is this weird amalgamation thing that is the Roman Empire.
Yeah, yeah, and but yeah, it's interesting that and here's the other thing I think we can take from this is, at some point, as Americans, which I figure most people that are going to listen to this are going to live in America, so we haven't got worldwide yet, but even if anybody from somewhere else is listening to it, at some point, when you turn away from God, your empire is going to crumble.
Yeah.
Empires don't last.
Yeah.
They don't. None of them ever did. There's always somebody bigger, always somebody badder, always somebody stronger.
Yeah.
But we'll see here in 7 and 8 that there is one kingdom that is going to last. When it's set up, it ain't coming down.
Right.
And that's also the point that God's trying to make is all these things. Evil's going to destroy evil.
Yeah.
So you have Alexander the Great, who probably wasn't a great person.
Yeah.
His kingdom is going to be conquered by the Romans, which again weren't great people. And I'm sure there was quote unquote good people in there, but the people in control were not good people.
Yeah.
So we as Americans, we're every empire lasts on average about 250 years, and for some reason at that 250 year mark they always turn away from God. Well, we as Americans are, what are we, 200 almost 250 years in.
249 or something.
Yeah, I think 250 is next year.
That's crazy.
So and you can look around and see there's a lot of people turning away from God. So
Yeah, 249.
just kind of a warning. So
That's really uncomfortable.
I'm just throwing it out there, bro. I'm just throwing it out there.
Really concerning thing.
Factual matter. That's
Oh yeah,
all.
for sure, for sure.
But then it goes on here in verses 9 through 14 to show. Let me read verse 8 real quick. Daniel says, while I was considering the horns, suddenly another horn, a little one, came up among them, and 3 of the first horns were uprooted before it. And suddenly in this horn there were eyes like the eyes of a human, and a mouth that was speaking arrogantly. So, look, I've told y'all before, I'll never
Imagine that.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a Bible scholar, but most Bible scholars agree that this first part that we have leading up to verse 8 is the near future that Daniel is going to see. This right here in verse 8, this little horn that shows up on the scene, we haven't even seen yet.
Right.
Because that's the quote-unquote Antichrist. And we coined that term, so, but it says, and the reason they say that is because you have this little horn that shows up outside of all these other horns. And if you know anything about, if we talk about Revelation, we talked about this morning, you're going to have this person that shows up on the scene that's going to speak arrogantly, speak boastfully, and he's going to basically take all of these, basically unite the world, quote unquote, under something that's not godly, but he's going to unite the world. So that's kind of where we're at with verse 8, is you have this horn that shows up. I don't know why God didn't just lay it out simpler, other than the fact that he wanted us to study it better.
Yeah, I mean, that's honestly a good enough reason for it. You know?
Yeah. So, because you, like I said, you can get stuck in the weeds on all this stuff. So, but this is the good part. Is after this little horn sprouts up, David sees this. He says, "As I kept watching, thrones were set in place, and the Ancient of Days took his seat. His clothing was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the whitest wool. His throne was flaming fire. Its wheels were blazing fire. A river of fire was coming out of his presence. Thousands upon thousands served him. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The court was convened, and the books were opened." So you have these thousands of people that are worshiping. He's actually just thousands upon thousands. And then you have these 10,000 upon 10,000 that are watching.
Yeah.
And then here comes the scary part, which says the books were opened. And that's, I always use the illustration. I use the illustration a lot that, if Michael or Gabriel came down and laid out the Lamb's Book of Life right here in front of you, that's the book that your name must be written in, right? To be able to gain entrance into heaven and eternity with God. If they drop that book down, would you want to get up and come look and see if your name was there?
No.
And we have to be assured of the fact, if you think you have to get up and go look and see if your name's in that book, it probably isn't.
Yeah.
True.
I don't have to look. I know it's there.
If you have to check just to make
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think a good, honest comparison to this is Daniel chapter 2, because, everything is still lining up with the exception of, the little horn. We have 10 horns on the beast, and then there's, obviously, 10 toes on the 2 legs. But, there's no 11th toe that pops up and stubs 3 of them,
Right.
It differs a little bit. But at the end of that vision in Daniel 2, it's a big meteor that comes down and crashes and destroys everything, right? It sets up in the new kingdom, like a mountainside. Whereas in here, it goes into the explicits, in the next verse, talking about, the Son of Man coming down from clouds of heaven, and he was given dominion, and, that kingdom, came up to it.
Yeah.
But, we're talking about the judgment and how the books are opened. It probably really does feel like a meteor coming right at you to just flatten everything out.
Well, not even that. I mean, God promised after the flood that he'd never destroy the world again with water.
Right.
But we can read in Revelation and we understand that
It's a lot of fire.
he's going to send a lot of fire.
A lot of
Right.
fire.
So, that's the and I can't remember what it is, but there's something with the number 10 with the 10 toes and the 10 horns, and there's something biblically with the 10. I can't remember what it is, but there's a significance to the number 10. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head right now, but you have this picture of this little horn jumping up and or popping up, and speaking arrogantly, and then right after that, you have God showing up on the scene, and he's setting up his kingdom, and that goes back to all these kingdoms are going to fall, and then you're going to have anybody that was in charge of any of these empires, they were arrogant people, and what's one of the things that God detests the most? Arrogance.
Yeah.
The Bible tells us
yourself.
that.
Yeah.
Over and over again, he tells us to humble ourselves.
Yeah. What I found about the number 10, it's a mixture of completeness, but also order and government and judgment, things like that. So the 10 commandments, the 10 plagues was complete judgment on Egypt.
Right.
The 10 here could be 10 leading parties, in a world government type of a deal. Granted, that's a opinion interpretation.
Right.
But,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
It definitely has that, I guess, leaning.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I think pretty much 90% of end time, whatever you want to call it, interpretation is going to be opinion.
Yeah.
Because you don't understand it, I don't understand it, none of us are going to understand it completely.
Yeah.
Because we can't. So you have God and the courts convene.
You have Daniel here that was just not long ago interpreting everybody's dreams, and now he's seeking his own interpreter.
Right.
Yeah.
Now he's needing somebody to interpret this, which tells you this can't be. It's not like God sends, some person after he wakes up to interpret it for him.
Yeah.
He literally has to send an angel to interpret it for him.
Yeah.
Because there's no way. I don't think there's any way that a man could interpret it for him.
Yeah.
Which should tell us a little something too.
Yeah.
But then in verse 11 he says, "I watched then, because of the sound of the arrogant words the horn was speaking. As I continued watching, the beast was killed and its body was destroyed and given over to the burning fire." Well, there you go. There's that fire again. Mm-hmm. And as for the rest of the beast, their dominion was removed, but an extension of life was granted to them for a certain period of time. I got stuck on that, and but then here's how actually in my brain, here's how I was able to actually figure that out. I just looked up the definition of the word dominion, right? And the definition was like a specified territory, or if you remember, God gave Satan and his demons, he gave them dominion over the earth, right? Well, he's taken away that dominion because he's come back, but he's allowing them to stay there. This is a whole thing we're not going to get into, but he's allowing them to stay for a time.
To reside still.
Reside still. And there's a whole thing with the millennia and all those things.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But they no longer have dominion there. He's just allowing them to stay there for a little while.
No authority.
Right. They have no authority. They have no anything.
Yeah. They're retired, if you will. No.
They're as I was I was able to watch the new Duck Dynasty, and in the first episode, Willie announced that he was fully semi-retired. So that they're fully semi-retired.
There you go.
Fully semi-retired.
So,
incredible.
But yeah, I got stuck on that, and I was like, man, I don't understand what that means, and I couldn't find anybody that would explain it to me.
Yeah.
Right. I looked through all my commentaries. Nobody had that verse specifically.
Yeah.
And then I looked up that word dominion, and it made more sense when you look up what dominion means.
And honestly, with like that added little piece, I mean, obviously today is not about like revelation, but it's so hard not to just see.
But it is.
Revelation.
I mean, no.
Time.
It is. Mm-hmm. It is though, because like I said, I think going up to through verse 7 is the near future that we know is going to happen. We as in now 2026, we can see those things happen.
Right,
but verse 8 is still to come.
Right.
So we have the already happened, not in Daniel's time, but in our time, we know. But verse 8, it's like, okay, well, here's what's going to happen in the future of that.
Yeah.
The future of the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of got stuck on that for a little while. Then he says in 13, he says, I continued watching in the night visions, and suddenly one like the Son of Man was coming on the clouds of heaven. He approached the Ancient of Days and was escorted before him. And this is the greatest part right here. It says he was given dominion and glory and a kingdom so that those of every people, nation, and language should serve him. And this is the part that it even gets. It says this again in chapter 8, or very similar to this. But at the end of verse 14, it says, his dominion is an everlasting dominion that will not pass away, and his kingdom is one that will not be destroyed. Amen. That's what we look forward to, right?
Absolutely.
Like, even if, let's just say, even if next year at the year 250 year mark, the United States falls apart,
right,
and it's okay, because at some point Jesus is going to come. He's going to set up his kingdom fully, right? His kingdom's already here. Like, it's here. It's just not in its full fruition yet. But he's going to set up his kingdom, and no one's going to be able to destroy that.
Well, and like you said, like that's the hope. Like when we were talking about this downstairs before we got into recording and everything, it is that idea of we're just on a visitor's visa. As Christians, like our home is with the Lord.
Yeah,
right?
That's our citizenship.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, we're just on a tourist visa down here on Earth.
Right. So like the idea of having this everlasting kingdom is such a comforting thing because that's home.
Yeah. Well, and that's that everlasting kingdom, and what Daniel even said here when Jesus was going to set it up is that's where the disciples got stuck, right? They were assuming that when Jesus came,
That was the start of the kingdom.
that's it. Well, they asked him over and over, when are we taking over? When are we going to shut these people down, kick them out?
Yeah.
And just like that's
Our turn to
not
reign.
that's not what I came here for this time.
Yeah.
That's not what this time is for, and they just couldn't get it.
Yeah.
Right, and that's why even a lot of the Jewish people rejected him, because they were looking for some military leader,
A king.
to come in and
Quote,
take
unquote.
over.
Yeah.
Yeah, an earthly king, and that's not what he was here for.
Right. Yeah. They wanted him to come in on a war horse, not the donkey.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And not even a full size donkey, a colt.
You're right. Exactly.
Yeah, they were like, wait a minute, this dude's coming in on a this dude's coming in on a donkey, but then you get the interpretation of the vision, and and it's pretty much what we've already kind of gone through, rather than reading. Jordan, put those cookies down.
I just want one.
But
Keep going.
but we we get into the interpretation of it, and we've kind of gone about it. But I just wanted to read verse 28, which is the last verse there in chapter 7. It says, "This is the end of the account. As for me, Daniel, my thoughts terrified me greatly. My face turned pale, but I kept the matter to myself." Right? But think about it this way, and this is, I saw that and I thought about it. Now, Daniel sees all these things happen, but he also sees at the end of all these things happening that God's going to come and he's going to set up his kingdom.
Right.
So why would that bother him?
Right.
And it's not the thought, but it says it terrified me greatly and my face turned pale. It's not that that Daniel was terrified because God was going to set up his kingdom. Right. I think what terrified Daniel was he saw what was going to happen to God's people in this, in all of this. It wasn't and that's what made him, and he even says it in verse 8 again. We'll get back into it when we get to chapter 8, not verse 8, chapter 8, where he talks about being grieved. Well, why would you be grieved? It's kind of like, and you have to get in the end times, and like I said, we're not going to get deep into Revelation, but obviously you have to when you're reading this part of Daniel. You got to get into Revelation some. Mm-hmm. But he's grieved, and it should grieve us because we see what people are going to go through.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We're looking forward to God coming and setting up his kingdom, for Jesus coming back and calling us home and ending all of this madness, the crazy chaos that's going on. But the other side of it is you also know what happens in between there. Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that's what terrifies Daniel.
Yeah, and like you said, it's almost selfish to have yourself prepared and wish that sooner, for yourself, but knowing that others still need to be witnessed to and opportunity to be saved.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the but if in verse 27, in the interpretation of the vision, Daniel writes, or actually I guess was spoken to him, and then Daniel wrote, "The kingdom, dominion, and greatness of the kingdoms under all of heaven will be given to the people, the holy ones." That's us, right? If you're a born again believer, a follower of Christ, that's who he's talking about. Will be given to the people, the holy ones of the Most High. His kingdom, and he says it again, he reiterates it. His kingdom will be an everlasting kingdom, and all rulers will serve and obey him. And that goes to, we were talking about the verse where Paul writes, "Every knee will bow and every tongue will confess, and every knee will bow and confess that Jesus is Lord," right? Mm-hmm. So, and that's what Daniel's saying too. At some point, and that's what a lot of times when I'm talking to somebody about the gospel of Jesus Christ, I always say, here's what the Bible tells me. This is what I believe. This is why I believe it. And if you say, well, you're wrong and I'm right, and I always ask them, but what if you're wrong and I'm right? If I'm wrong, I lived a good life. I treated people the way the Bible asked me to, as best I could. Mm-hmm. I tried to serve God. I tried to serve others. If I die and there's nothing after it, okay, well, I lived a good life. Yeah. But if you're wrong, and this is right, what's that say for you? What happens to you?
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because, like, by most other religion standards, I mean, we're set regardless, living just a good life or whatever.
Right.
But
Yeah.
on the chance, which, I mean, we all believe is the correct, it's a high chance just based off Scripture and everything else, it's only through Christ, So, like,
Right.
all these people are banking on one huge thing that might be wrong, and letting it decide their entire eternity.
Yeah.
Purely because you're just stuck in whatever.
Yeah, I mean it can be easy, and I think that's kind of what I was alluding to earlier. Is it can be easy to get caught up into trying to figure all of this out and what all this means. I got news for you. If anybody ever tells you they understand all of this and they understand all of Revelation,
Through and through.
they've lost their mind. Don't listen to them, because nobody can.
Yeah.
There's no way you can understand the future.
Yeah.
Like, it's not possible. You may be able to make some assumptions and to make some suppositions, but you're never going to be able to understand it fully. So when somebody says, "Oh, well, I know," nah, you don't know nothing. You know a little bit, but you don't know all of it. So don't act like you do. But we can get so caught up and so distracted into what the beasts are and what they look like, and trying to figure all that out. But what we need to do is focus on the things that we know, which is at some point in time in the future, Jesus is going to come back, and all of this is going to be different. And he's going to fix it the way it was supposed to be in the beginning.
Amen.
And we can't get distracted about all this other stuff. Yes, it's interesting to sit down and study and do those things, but we can't get so distracted that we forget the end goal.
Yeah.
Is Jesus coming back?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's got meaning. If it didn't have meaning, it wouldn't have been
Absolutely.
in Scripture. It's just not filler.
Right.
So.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, it's not fluff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's meant for us to look at and study and try to figure out. But I think the key to this whole thing that Daniel, I mean, this is just me. This is what I think. I think the whole thing of why we have this and the point of all of these visions and interpretations is, listen, there's going to be a whole lot of bad stuff that goes on, but in the end, God wins.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he says it a couple times. He says that God's going to set up an everlasting kingdom, and then we're not going to have to deal with all the stuff we deal with now and all the mess that's going on.
Well, and I think it's also like a heart posture of it all too. Like, there are so many ways you can look at this half of Daniel or Revelation or any other prophecies throughout Scripture that go toward end times. People are in the premillennial camp, or the amillennial camp, or the postmillennial camp, or dispensationalism, or covenant theology, or pre-trib rapture, mid-trib rapture, post-trib rapture, all these different things. I think like the right way to look at it is just be excited for the coming of Jesus.
Yeah.
Just look forward to him coming back. Don't fight tooth and nail over which opinion is more correct over other, because, I mean, here's the thing, every single one of those opinions have Scripture that backs it up.
Right.
So, like, why are we dividing ourselves so heavily on the what-if aspect of Scripture, because it hasn't happened yet,
Yeah.
when we could all be joined together and just rejoicing in Jesus coming back.
Yeah.
That's the cool part,
Yeah.
right?
And I know the one thing that's true is we're all just going to deal with today. And that's
Right.
it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You don't even know what tomorrow's going to bring,
Right.
let
Right.
alone X amount of years from now.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, and it's also, I've said before, in the church, like, don't get me wrong, I think we have not done a good job of being good stewards of what God's given us as far as the earth goes. We've treated it like it's, disposable, and it's not. However, I got news for you. I've read Revelation. I'm reading I've read Daniel before, reading it again and studying it again. You're not going to stop it from ending.
Yeah, there's
Like,
nothing you can do.
You can choose to be a better steward of what God's given us, but you're not going to stop, quote unquote, climate change, if that's what you want to call it.
Right.
So that's a futile battle.
Well, and like even on the topic of like climate change, like everything is going downhill purely because it started back in the garden.
Right.
Right. Like, it's not that we just suddenly decided to, throw plastic in the ocean. It's because we've been in a fall thousands of years ago.
Yeah,
You know?
the fall has always
Right. There's no course correction other than it all
Been happening.
The only course correction is just remaking everything, which Christ is going to do anyway.
Right.
You know.
Right.
There's nothing that we can do. Not to say that we should just say, all right, forget it then and
No.
just dump everything in the
Yeah,
ocean.
no.
But because we're still charged with taking care of what
Right.
He
He
has
gave
given
us, he put us in charge of the beasts of the land and the birds of the air and he put us in charge, and we've done a bad job of taking care of those.
Right.
I mean, we're not going to lie, but this isn't a political podcast, so we're not
Right.
going to get into all that. But
Right.
we haven't done the job that we should have. However, we also aren't going to stop what God's put in motion either.
Correct.
Or what God's allowed to be put in motion, I guess would be the better way to say it.
Correct.
And then going back to the arguments between the pre-tribulation and the mid-tribulation and the post-tribulation and all these different arguments, I think the most biblical answer I've ever gotten from somebody was, a pastor told me one time, he said, because I asked him, what he thought, and he said, well, I'm an I tribulation, an all right trib. I'm
All right trib?
What? He said, I'm all right. I said, what is that? He said, whether it's pre, mid, or post, no matter what happens, I'm going to be all right.
Love it.
I was like,
I love
that.
it.
That's probably the most biblical answer
Yeah.
you can give when it comes to that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
no matter what happens, and we know all this is going to happen, no matter when it happens, whether it's in our lifetime or 3 generations from now, no matter what happens, if you are a born again follower of Jesus Christ, we're going to be all right.
Yeah.
And so, in a nutshell, I guess that 7 is it leads us through those historical things, and it points us to, hey, here's what's going to happen. There's no way that Daniel could have known any of this.
Yeah.
In his own human wisdom, there's no way. And probably, in all honesty, and if it hadn't been interpreted, not probably, in all honesty, if it hadn't been interpreted to him, he still wouldn't have understood it.
Yeah.
It had to be told to him what it meant. And if it hadn't been interpreted to him, we wouldn't understand it,
No,
right?
yeah, 100%.
So,
Did we want to read through this chunk
yeah, go ahead.
right here? I'll just start back in 15 and kind of just finish it out. As for me, Daniel, my spirit was deeply distressed within me, and the visions in my mind terrified me. I approached one of those who were standing by and asked him to clarify all this. So he let me know the interpretation of these things. These huge beasts, 4 in number, are 4 kings who will rise from the earth. But the holy ones of the Most High will receive the kingdom and possess it forever. Yes, forever and ever. And then I wanted to be clear about the 4th beast, which is what we all want to know too. The one different from all the others, extremely terrifying, with iron teeth and bronze claws, devouring, crushing, and trampling with its feet whatever was left. I also wanted to know about the 10 horns on its head and about the other horn that came up, before which 3 fell, the horn that had eyes and a mouth that spoke arrogantly and that looked bigger than the others. As I was watching, I like how it says that looked bigger than the others, even though it was the tiny horn. So it just had a presence to it. As I was watching this horn wage war against the holy ones and was prevailing over them until the Ancient of Days arrived and the judgment was given in favor of the holy ones of the Most High. For the time had come and the holy ones had possession of the kingdom. This is what he said. The 4th beast will be a 4th kingdom on the earth, different from all the other kingdoms. It will devour the whole earth, trample it down, and crush it. The 10 horns are 10 kings who will rise from this kingdom. Another king, different from the previous ones, will rise after them and subdue 3 kings. He will speak words against the Most High and oppress the holy ones of the Most High. He will intend to change religious festivals and laws, and the holy ones will be handed over to him for a time, and half a time. But the court will convene, and his dominion will be taken away to be completely destroyed forever. The kingdom, dominion, and greatness of the kingdoms under all of heaven will be given to the people, the holy ones of the Most High. His kingdom will be an everlasting kingdom, and all rulers will serve and obey him. This is the end of the account. As for me, Daniel, my thoughts terrified me greatly, and my face turned pale, but I kept the matter to myself.
Yeah, so that last, when Daniel's seeing all these beasts and he gets caught up on that one horn.
Yeah.
Right, all these other things, and he gets caught up on that one horn. So, I mean, a lot of people will say, well, why did he get distracted by that one horn? Well, apparently there was something about that was different than everything else.
Everything else, yeah.
And that's why he got
Yeah,
caught
not to
by
like
it,
really
but-
draw his attention.
Yeah, but and that's the
it almost seemed like an imposter. Like it was amongst the other ones, but it wasn't as big as what it looked like. You
Yeah.
know, like
It was like playing a part.
yes.
But then it took over. Knocked the other horns off, and who knows that to me that speaks of jumps over to Revelation, which is we haven't gotten there yet. Because Jesus, I don't know if y'all know this or not, but Jesus hasn't come back yet. So
Really?
yeah. So we haven't gotten there yet. If you look at it, it says he will speak words against the Most High and oppress the holy ones, right? So and we can look around the world and there's a lot of things like that going on, but this is saying everyone. So somebody's going to come up somewhere, right? And he's going to speak arrogantly. He's going to speak against God. But he's also going to basically say you can't, and it almost harkens back to Daniel 6, right? You can't worship your God. Mm-hmm. You can't pray to him. You can only talk to me. Mm-hmm. And we, as Christians, as followers of Christ, we have to be willing to do exactly what Daniel did and open the windows and go, no, you're not going to tell me I can't pray to God. Mm-hmm. But there's going to be somebody that comes along. We don't know when that's going to be. We don't know where he's coming from. That's going to come along, and they're going to try to take away those things from us.
Yeah. Well, and we got to remember that that's going to open up the door for God to use us like he did Daniel. Daniel.
Absolutely.
Are you still in there? Did you
Yeah.
survive? Yeah. He shut the mouths of the lions,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a good hope.
Yeah, and a lot of people think, people ask me all the time. We were talking about this earlier. I guess they find out I'm a pastor, and if they're Christians, they want to know, are we in the end times? Well, let me give everybody that hears this an answer to that question, if we're in the end times or not. We have been in the end times since Jesus' ascension. Mm-hmm. So, yes, we're in the end times. Are we in the tribulation times? I don't think so, because this dude hasn't popped up and said, especially here in America, that we can't be Christians, because that's what's going to happen.
Yeah,
globally, it's going to happen.
Like even to that point, like didn't Paul say that like we're in the end times, the end of days,
Yeah.
or like is right around the corner, and
Yeah.
that was 2,000 years ago.
Right.
Like we've been in it. This is
Right.
the end game.
Right.
We've been here for a long
Yeah,
time.
the end times have been spoken for a long time.
Right.
Yeah.
There's just one thing missing,
The end
and
times.
that's the end of the end times.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, the end of the end time.
Right. And that's Jesus coming back. So,
Yeah.
but no, we've sat. There's a lot here, and we're trying to not give you guys another hour and 45-minute podcast. So we're trying to keep it at least condensed down a little bit at a time. But there's a lot here, and I would definitely challenge everybody to sit down, study through the book of Daniel, study through this, because even a lot of people that study end times want to study Daniel, but even other than the end times, Daniel chapter 7 through 12, there's a lot there. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of hope there. More than anything, there's hope there, because Daniel was terrified, but he also saw the hope that at some point God was going to come back and he was going to set everything back right.
Right. It's the gospel.
Right.
It is
It's
the good
absolutely the gospel. It's
Right.
the good news of, and that's what gospel is. It's the good news. Mm-hmm. We can get distracted by things that don't matter, by the things that are going on around us. But what we have to ultimately remember is that God wins.
Yeah.
And that's the hope we hold on to. Paul, I think it was Paul, said, if all this was, if the resurrection was a hoax, if the resurrection was, then those of us that believe in it should be pitied above all men.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you don't believe in that, you have no hope.
Right.
Because no matter what happens in this world, whether I get, I always like to say, whether I get taken out by, happenstance, circumstance, or rock truck, either way, my time's going to come.
Yeah.
And, but I have that hope. I have that hope in the resurrection. You can put me in the ground, but eventually I'm coming back out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not staying there.
Well, like we were talking earlier too, if you're alive, you're breathing, your heart's pumping, we all have to die someday.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
something that we're dealt with, the gift of life.
Yes.
That's it.
And then through Christ, eternal
Yeah,
life.
absolutely. And we should be like Daniel, and we should be terrified of the fact that those that don't choose to follow Jesus are going to have to go through these things and then have no hope at the end.
Yeah.
Like and I think that's what really terrified Daniel.
Yeah.
Was that people were going to have to go through these things and there was going to be no hope for some people.
Yeah.
Because they chose to reject God.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole motivation right there, like go out into the world, preach the gospel, because you don't want people to go through this.
Yeah.
You want them to have peace and joy and happiness in eternity with Jesus.
Yeah. And even if you're a post-tribulation person, you go through it, but at least there's hope at the end. There's light at the end of the tunnel.
Right. There's still,
right?
yeah.
Even if you have to go through it, you have hope.
Right.
And that's what Daniel was seeing, but it still bothers him that, as a matter of fact, it says right there at the very end of chapter 7, it says, but I kept the matter to myself. Could you imagine Daniel going up to somebody and going, bro, you ain't going to believe what I dreamed about last night.
This is all going to end.
Like, I saw a lion with some wings and then a leopard with 4 heads, and they're probably going to put him in an insane asylum.
Yeah. Back in the day.
But he kept it to himself. Why? I don't know why he kept it to himself, other than the fact that it terrified him, that he didn't want to terrify anybody else. Maybe, I don't know. Or maybe he knew people would look at him like he was nuts.
No.
But we know the truth, and we know what's going to happen. So we need to make sure, unlike this part of what Daniel said, we don't need to keep it to ourselves. We need to tell everybody.
Yeah. It could be because of we were talking about earlier with, oh Lord, I remember what we were talking about. Like if we knew the day we were going to die, we spend the rest of our life worrying about that moment.
Sure.
So like if it's understanding that, Babylon was that first one, and like they knew that they're going to be taken over by Medes and Persians, they'd probably be freaking out the entire time until it happened.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was going to happen.
Right, exactly. There's nothing they can do to
life.
change it because, God already deemed it in place for it to happen.
Right.
So probably for quality of life, honestly.
Yeah, well, and that goes to, we were talking about that earlier too, which is, when we said, there's a reason that God doesn't let us know exactly when he's coming back. So in other words, what we need to do is live in such a way that we think as if he's coming back today. Mm-hmm. Like, if he said, I'm coming back on December 12th, 2034, we would all do whatever we wanted to, right? We're all people. We're all human. We would be like, you know what? I got until December 11th to get right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it kind of judges your heart, too, because it's like, I'm going to sit idle until, 3 days until the coming of Christ and then, make things right or,
Yeah, I don't think it works like that.
No.
I don't think it works like that. But as Christians, what we need to do is not, like Karl said, we can't sit idly. And we know it's coming, so we need to make sure that we live in such a way that God's coming back to set up his kingdom today. Mm-hmm. And we need to make sure that as many people as we can get to go with us. That's our job as Christians, is to get as many people with us there as we can get.
Right. Yeah, there's the comfort of we know it's happening, but I think it's important that we don't know when it's happening for that reason too.
Absolutely.
For all those reasons, like whether it's like you don't want to wait till a week before Jesus comes back to start going out in all the world, telling about Jesus. It's like the thing with kids, if you come home, like I'll be home in 20 minutes, whatever, and they wait to the very end to do everything you told them to do beforehand. We don't have that luxury, so let's do everything God told us now because he could come back today, or it could be, 16 years from now or whatever.
Yep, absolutely. So that's Daniel 7. Anybody got any last minute thoughts or anything like that? We did that pretty quick, I think. So I don't know about quick, but we did it quicker than.
I don't know if quick is the right word for that one, but
quicker than the last one. Put it that way.
Yeah,
so
a little bit.
About 20 minutes quicker.
For one chapter.
Yeah, for one chapter.
For one chapter, that's not too bad. So, but we'll go ahead and close in a word of prayer. I'll go ahead and close this in a word of prayer. And then we'll say thank you guys for tuning in, and again, it's one of those things. I know that most people that are going to listen to this are going to be from Eden Baptist Church. I know that, but maybe some people that are listening aren't. And based on this, one thing we need to make sure everybody understands is one day God is coming back, and when He comes back, it's then too late.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of people. I remember when I was a kid, a lot of times or a teenager, I had this thought of, I looked and I saw these older Christians, and I would be like, when I'm in my 30s, I'll do everything right, but I'm going to do, But the problem is we don't know. I mean, we just had, I think we've had two seniors from Citrus High School that have passed away in the last month.
Wow.
Like, So I mean, you don't know. You
lot of
don't know when
people
your
don't make
last
it to
day
their
is.
30s.
So a lot of people don't make it to the 30s. So, if you're out there and you're listening and just understand this, that there's going to come a day where this life's going to end. That there's no questions about it. There's no arguments about that. The question you have to ask yourself is, when this physical life is over, where are you going to spend eternity? And there's only two options, and it's heaven or hell.
Yeah.
And the choice is yours. You have to choose where you go. God's not going to choose it for you. You have to choose. And the only way to get there, like Jesus said, John 14:6, he said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And then he says, no one comes to the Father except through me. So the only way to spend eternity in heaven with God is through a relationship with Jesus Christ. So if you're listening, you hear that, and you got questions about that, you can get a hold of the church, or you can find a local pastor in your area, and I'm sure that I would hope they could walk you through the what that means and how to do that. But if there's something, we're going to run through the rest of Daniel here over the next few episodes, and when we get to the end of that, if there's something you guys would like us to go through, you can
Leave it in the comment section.
leave it in the comment
give
section.
submissions.
Yeah, some like and subscribe up in there. But that's what they all say on everything I listen to. They're like and subscribe. Hey, like and subscribe.
And
So,
all notifications.
yeah, that's right. Click the bell. Click the bell so you know when you get a new one. But no, we're gonna run through the rest of Daniel, and then I don't know where we're gonna go from there. We'll figure it out when we get there. But if there's a specific thing that you want us to kind of go through, we can do that. Or you got some questions or anything, we'll try to address some questions. If you got any questions in the comment section or whatever, we can do that at the beginning of the episode each week or whatever. So
Kind of like a little recap.
yeah, absolutely. So but let's go ahead and close in a word of prayer. So let's pray. Lord God, thank you for today. God, thank you for who you are and what you do. God, I just thank you for giving us this vision of what is to come. But God, more importantly than the fact that you gave us this vision of what is to come, God, you made a way for us to have hope through all of this turmoil and all of these things that are going to happen. And you gave us that hope through your Son, Jesus Christ. And God, I pray that each one of us would live in such a way that we would be different. God, that we would be set apart, not in an arrogant way, but just that people would want what we have, and that is you. So God, I just thank you for the story of Daniel. I thank you for what you've shown us through it. And God, I pray that you would lead, guide, and direct in everything that we do and everything that we say. So God, I love you. I thank you. And I ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.